Hello and welcome to Buzz Banter. I'm Das Hat.
I'm Sam.
I'm Maya.
I'm Rinwin.
And today we bring you the discussion that everyone wanted to hear from probably our second episode. The Legend of Korra. All of it. Well, so far.
All of season 1, yes.
All of season 1. We this past weekend saw the season finale. The hour-long, well, essentially just the last 2 episodes matched together. And, well, I give the floor to you.
Okay, well, because I think I have the most reserves about it, I'm going to start talking about it first. I do love this series, and I don't want anyone to get the misconception that I don't. Like, I love it with all my heart.
I do think all of us really enjoy it.
Yeah, but, like, I do have, I do think that stylistically, not like art-wise, but story-wise, telling-wise, it's not as good as people are making it out to be. Like, they have these great aspects to it, and I'll give them that. But since you guys are already going to be talking about that, I'm going to be like the devil's advocate.
I was going to say, the reason why people might be like that is, have you seen some of the other cartoons that people are forced to watch? There is nothing to the quality of Legend of Korra on right now. Like, in terms of 2D animation cartoons, in North America,
Korra is not 2D though. Like you can tell they use a lot.
There's
of 3D
some cel-shading.
Well, there's 3D, but I mean, like, it's not like 3D.
As an
animated
feature, right, towards a larger demographic in North America, because it's broadcasted in Canada as well as the States. It is quite high tier up.
It is very high. They do have a lot of great, like, story-wise. They also do have a lot of great aspects of it. But there's just things like no character development.
Yeah, but
and there's some. There's like 2 characters that develop through the whole thing. Korra, of course, does because she's the main character.
A little bit.
And so does Lin. Lin and Korra are the only characters that
Lin develops with very little information too. You really don't know much about her.
I think this is why people adore Lin.
And her getting her
her
clothes on like Iron Man kind of helps too.
Okay. Let's just start this off. We are going to be talking about major plot points over the course of the Korra series, especially the finale. So this is your spoiler warning. There will not be another one given. So this is your one chance. We're not even going to post a link to show like our final thoughts. No, there are going to be spoilers. We are not going to have a cutoff to this.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we're warning you now. You've been fairly warned. Go and watch the show. Watch the final episodes if that's what you haven't seen yet, and then we'll get back to you. We'll be here when you get back. But anyway.
Okay, so also the thing is that each character they introduced so many characters in a short span of time. And the thing with that is you can tell it was supposed to be a short, because it wasn't supposed to be an entire season. It
was actually originally slated as just a mini-series.
Yeah, but then they extended it, and you can tell that happened. And I love that happened, because the more the better for me. But there's a lot of things that get lost in the process of doing
There's not enough world development because
that works in shorts.
Yeah, in shorts.
If it's a short series and there's not enough world development, you can use it in such pinpointed ways that it'll work. Like, you could pick it up. Like, the great thing about The Last Airbender is and it's kind of hard to compare the two. Like you said, they're 2 very different stories, right?
As they should be.
Yeah, as they should be. And but in the beginning, what they do, since it's a fantasy world, right? What they do right away is they give you a small snippet of what the entire world is, and they do that in Korra as well. Right?
Yeah, with the opening scroll in Korra, they do sort of tell you exactly what happened with the previous series, and basically introduce you to Republic City, a nation that is between the other 4.
Yeah.
Or just a city that's between the other 4. It's its own sort of independent state.
It's the capital.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
The two big. I'm just going to say these 2 points, and these are the only 2 problems that I've had with it. First the characters. Like, there's too many characters too fast, no character development. And the second thing, what was it? Oh, the storytelling mode for when we get revealed about the brother, where it's just there's no indication of that before, and then we just tell it all at one point. And if you study English, you know that's something that you're not supposed to be doing.
Right.
But given the
If anything, I'm wondering if because of the formatting of the series, the previous Avatar episodes sometimes had extras at the end.
Yeah.
But if you're the type of person who turns off the TV when the credits start rolling, you're not going to see the ending, and then you're going to start the next episode and you're like, what is happening? Yeah. But back to the world development idea. Right when I started watching the first episode, even I noticed that this is modeled off of the 1940s Shanghai. Even the women's fashions are beginning to have pantsuits and whatnot. I'm like, this is a lot of development in a short period of time, which makes sense because Industrial Revolution did cause that.
Yeah, I actually don't have a problem with the fact that it's quick. Like, quick development.
The level of technological advancement within the world makes sense. But here's the problem that I had with the world that they set up. You have technological advancement over the last, 75 years or so, and it makes sense. You had basic metallurgy and all of this stuff spread rampantly throughout the Fire Nation colonies in the Earth Kingdom, because you had the blend of the Earthbenders and their work with Earth and metals, coupled with the technological advancements of the Firebenders. So it makes sense, and as you were saying, with the onset of our own Industrial Revolution, how quickly society and tastes changed. But here's the problem that you come into. During Aman's revolution, yes, in wartime you have an incredible amount of industry and innovation and sort of invention and everything. The central issue is, however, there's too much too fast towards the end of this series.
Mechanical wise.
In terms of the way that the world is functioning and everything, there is too much that is revealed or changed far too quickly. With regards to the biplanes, with regards to the depth charges, with regards to Zeppelins and all of this. Bombs, for God's sake. You never saw bombs before. Even the ships are set up to just focus firebending.
Yes.
There are no sort of projectile weapons like that. You have electrocution, which adds a little bit of a steampunk air to it.
He's kind of like, what's his name? What's the
Sato.
What's the dad's name?
Sato.
Sato.
Mr. Sato.
But there's another
Asari Sato.
Hirosha or something.
Hiroshi Sato.
Hiroshi, right? And he's obviously supposed to be Hiroshima. It's
he's he's actually supposed to be based off
because he's the one who invented the bomb.
A guy who invented cars from that era.
But then he's also a weaponsmith. Like, he's not just cars; he's a weaponsmith.
He's essentially the Manhattan Project rolled into one person. And that's fair enough. But the thing, the issue that I had with that is, yes, he's the head of the largest corporation and everything, but the fact that he's able to get away with all of this stuff, develop all of this technology, and continue to do so once he's expelled from Republic City is something that bothered me. And the sort of every time they turn around there's a new gadget to thwart them, that I found really annoying because it was happening episode to episode. Now, bear in mind, this is in large part because of the basic format of the... Sorry, that was my ring. That's because of the basic thematic format of this series. Whereas The Last Airbender was a coming-of-age tale for all of the characters, The Legend of Korra is not. No. It's more about finding your place in the world now that you've already grown. Yeah. Because you don't have any characters here, aside from Tenzin's 3 children, who are actually growing. And even then, they're just stock characters.
I think it's also more about dealing with the consequences of the previous past lives, right? I think it's more of that. That's why you keep going back to.
But you really don't have that many consequences of those past lives. You just have the one.
Well, yeah, but it's dealing,
a big one.
It's dealing with the consequences of Aang. The whole series is like, even though it's its own series and it looks entirely its own, it's all about the consequences of Aang's actions. And then it keeps
just one action, and not even from the original series.
And it keeps coming back to that.
Just as a point, to your original point of the being it short, thing is, when they're doing that, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't moment, because if it would have been a short, everyone would have been screaming, why wasn't this a season?
Yeah.
And it would have been a thing. I think the other reason is you're right about the technological developments, because one of the things that happened in the original series was the blimps.
Yeah. And that was a very gradual thing that you saw.
It wasn't even, they just showed it once, and you don't see them again until the next season.
Yeah.
Until like mid-next season, too, not even like early next season.
Yeah, but the thing with that is, like, the main reason I didn't have a big problem with that is because it's a big comment on how the world's developing. right? Okay, so let's...
And you don't even actually hear that much of the world either. Like,
Yeah.
what is the state of the Fire Nation? Is there still a Fire Lord?
I think that's
or-
what's going to happen in season 2.
I hope so.
I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. You can tell the way show is developing.
I quite like the fact that even though you stated that there wasn't as much character development except for Beifong and Korra, I think Beifong's character development was more juxtaposed to Pema and her husband.
Well, that's the
And
thing.
it was interesting because Pema still gives the same advice. Well, if you like someone and they are with someone else, just ruin their relationship. Just go in and tell them how you feel. They'll sabotage it on their own.
Yeah.
And then Beifong's like, you know what? I'm gonna deal with this with grace. Even though you did this,
Didn't
I will
she-
save your kids and
Yeah.
you.
Didn't she say that she tried to put her in jail at one point?
Yeah, but this is
I
her
don't
growing
think that was
up.
much
This is
grace.
grace now she's
But
older.
it's like,
Yeah, okay.
it's obvious, like, you have
It's
your
when she's over
initial,
it.
like,
yeah,
I do like to
yeah.
say though how this kind of like relationship thing develops with characters in their 50s. Because Beifong's 50,
Yeah.
Tenzin's 51, Tenma's 35. There's a 16-year age gap.
But I
between them.
like that. Like, I like how they have, like,
Yeah.
they can still have these... Oh yeah, but back to my original point
Yeah.
before then. Okay, so when you're looking at the original Avatar series, sorry,
Go ahead.
you see that, like, if you're looking at Avatar Kyoshi and Avatar Roku and Avatar Korra, right? If you look at all their... the world seems pretty much the same. There's some changes that are happening, but overall it's pretty much the same. But over the span of like 80 years, the world has changed drastically.
Right.
It's like happening.
Which
this
you
is-
expect after a war.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like what happened in like real life too. It's like you see the slow development, and suddenly we have this up peak. And even now, this like it's getting faster and faster and faster. And that's why in Korra, when you have these reserves, that technology keeps coming and coming. But that's exactly a comment on that. Like that's the way I took it. This is like everything's moving so fast. How are you supposed to keep up with it?
Well, in the
Especially
original
as an Avatar. Yeah.
in the original Avatar, we really didn't really get to see the state of the world when Aang was around. We only really kind of saw the air temples back then.
Yeah.
So we never really knew, like, what was the state of technology, so we don't really know what the advancement was there.
Well, you can.
we
see-
can make an assumption,
There's
but you don't...
flashbacks enough.
I think that we saw enough
You
technology.
can make kind
there's
of
enough.
the assumption.
Well, the thing is that there's enough of Aang's
Other than the
own
lack of
stories,
Yeah.
and it not just in flashbacks, but his own sort of talk about the way the world was and
Yeah.
everything. Especially in the early episodes when he's talking about these friends that he used to have across the various nations.
Yeah, and the shock factor is more of the way people have changed, not the way technology has changed.
The hot
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah, that's how you know. That's kind of how you can
Sifu
assume.
hopping.
Yeah, that like technology hasn't been that. It hasn't been that much, and you know it's just starting to develop because you have these introduction of these war machines that are just being invented for the first time.
I think
Like
they,
the blimps.
I think
Yeah.
because Aang set the world in a state of willingness to be more mercantile with one another, and like he's created like an instance where diplomacy and pretty much trade can finally happen for the first time, and like this sharing of ideas has allowed their technology to advance.
Well-
if anything, the flying things from
The blimps,
from
yeah.
leading to the blimps makes sense on the level that the Fire Nation and the Air Nomads and the Earth Kingdoms now collaborate together. I mean, we did see the Earth Kingdom's level of technology when they showed it in the previous
Ba Sing Se
Ba Sing
and
Se,
in
yeah. And you know-
Bumi's Kingdom, whatever that
and you
was
can
called.
see they have
Omashu.
the materials that they're using now are mostly from the Earth Kingdom. It makes sense. Like you have all the stuff available to perfect a machine of that to this caliber. Kind of works with Da Vinci's designs too.
Well, it kind of switches a little bit because the one thing that they tried to say was that each nation has to be separate. They can't mix.
Yeah.
But then
they do.
it kind of leads to maybe that's not the way the world is supposed to work. Maybe everything is supposed to mix,
Well,
which is
it-
a great...
Well,
It's like
yes.
balance in a different way.
Yeah.
Like the way how
Exactly.
it's originally was is that like the world was thrown off balance because Fire Nation was taking over everything, right? It was like a hierarchy. But it's like it's either the way they thought it was supposed to be, and you see this in the comics as well. You think it's supposed to be four, and that's the way it has to be, and this is exactly what you're saying. But like I think what we're gonna see a lot more in the comics is more of like this, moving toward the idea that like balance isn't just black and white. There's a lot of different types of balance. Like
Gray.
1 + 1 = 2, you know, or 3 + 2 = 5. You know, it's all different
2
kinds.
+ 2 = fish.
You know, all different kinds of balance that are available out there, and it's more just like taking what you have and trying to figure a way to move forward.
It's actually
Well,
really questioning what order is.
Yeah.
In this world.
Well, you have order in two separate ways, and I think that's the distinction that's being made between the two series. Because as you were saying, that what Aang's essentially allowed to happen with the establishment of Republic City is for the first time in history, you have all of these various tribes and nations that are actually trading with one another, which was actually one of the reasons that Sozin started the war in the first place. Because the way that he described the Fire Nation in comparison to the other nations made it seem like everyone kind of develops at their own rate. They don't really infringe upon one another, nor do they sort of collaborate with one another. The air nomads were the only ones that knew everyone simply because they were moving between nations, because they were nomadic.
I think we were actually talking about this earlier, like how great good can come from great evil.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, Republic City would have never come about if Sozin didn't do what he did.
But
And-
also, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I was gonna make one more a little comparison. You're also talking about the story wise. I think one thing that we've seen is that the creators, they can give more character development from the smallest forms of information than they can from greater forms. Because you could take characters like Bolin and Mako. We know so much about them. Like, we really know a lot about their history.
Yeah.
But we know kind of a little of what Lin does. We know that she used to date Tenzin.
Yeah.
And that she's Toph's daughter.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Who
what do we really know?
We don't.
She has a lot
And
of
from
pride.
that little bit of information and from the few parts that she has in the series,
Yeah.
she has gotten more character development from like characters who are in there almost every episode.
This is one of those things
Kind of
where,
goes to what they're saying.
where the writers just, or like the creators, like I think they're so brilliant for doing like little things like that. It's
Yeah.
like they're brilliant for their little details.
It's kind of showing what they're good at and what they can't. They can't really do a lot of character development with lots of information. They're
Yeah.
better at doling out small amounts of information,
Yeah.
giving lots of character.
What I really
character
liked
development.
what they did with Korra, especially like Korra the character, not the
Yeah.
series, as the new Avatar. It was interesting because they put her in isolation, and
Yeah.
so it's such a. So first of all, it's a big amount of shock for her as the Avatar to live in this new generation and try to learn stuff from the new Avatar, like as a new Avatar and live in this new type of balance. But on top of that, she's isolated. She knows nothing of the world, and
You see that exactly what Sam was saying. You see that in a little bit when she wants to take part in the bending arena matches, and she mentions to Tenzin that I need to learn these new fighting styles.
Yeah.
Because these sorts of what she's essentially learning is boxing.
Yeah.
Which has never existed before.
But you also, but the biggest thing for her is like she lived her whole life as, you know, bending this, bending that, and the biggest and you see this in the development. Like when you're first watching the series, you know that she's not going to be able to help Republic City at all against Amon until she learns how to sympathize with the non-benders.
Exactly.
And it wasn't until the episode where she's like, they cut off the power, and this is when this is when she first starts to develop like, oh, you know, you're our Avatar too, and she has this kind of like recognition that yes, you know, it's not just about being a bender or non-bender. It's about
and she realizes it's not just 4 nations. There's a 5th, which is the non-bending peoples.
Well, no, but it goes towards something that Avatar Yan Chen mentioned to Aang at the end of the last series, which is the Avatar's duty is to the world. And she says world, not the nations.
Yeah.
It is to the greater world at large. And that includes the benders, that includes the non-benders, and it includes nature around them.
Well, even if you play the game that was supposed to be between seasons 2 and 3, it even says like the reason why the Avatar is a human being, because suggesting that maybe the Avatar originally wasn't, was to sympathize with humanity.
If the Avatar remained as a spirit form, you'd have the problem of the Ivory Tower, where they would be so over and above humanity and immortal, they would never be able to sort of understand.
Gods comparing themselves to humans.
They have to feel sorrow and happiness.
They have to know what it's like to be human in order to help humanity. You can't help someone if you don't know where they're coming from.
You reminded me of something. This is why this was a bit of the problem I had with Asami and her father's relations, because it seemed so one-sided that her father was so bent with revenge that Asami would have to hurt him in order to end her father's like reign of like hatred.
Well,
and I think it was now that you've mentioned this, perhaps it is a concept of the mortal imperfections. It's very difficult to let go of your tragedy and bereavement, and like Korra is separate from this completely. But if you look at how Asami handles it, right, she handles it with violence, which is not necessarily the best thing.
It's not just with violence. It's only at the end that she finally admits that her father is actually a terrible father.
Yeah.
Because prior to
not
that,
only that, like terrible person in general.
It's neglect and spoiling
Sorry.
her. Yeah, it's usually neglect and just like throwing stuff at her, hoping that she'll turn out good.
Unfortunately, the one bad thing about that is they never really showed that to begin with, because we only really saw Hiroshi Sato in 2 episodes before he turned evil.
Yeah.
And he was only on there for like 30 seconds. And
yeah, but I knew as soon as I saw him,
it was
like,
too
that
good to
guy
be true.
is a bad guy.
No,
Yeah.
it was too good to be true.
But I think the real part of that thing was to show what happens to grief. Like, they were both technically grieving over their mother.
Yeah.
Asami's mother. But the one thing is that he turned his grief into hatred, and it overwhelmed his love for his wife. Well, for Asami, it didn't. She still felt love. She even made that comment, I still feel love for our mother. I still love her, even though she's gone, and therefore I'm able to not do these terrible things. Whereas for him, I guess maybe it was because he was older, she was 8, so she was at a more innocent time, whatever you want to say it, but it just turned into such hatred, it's almost like he can't feel love anymore. Hence why he's even able to attack his daughter.
Yeah. Actually, going back to your comment on how you know nothing about the world, I think that there's hints.
There are
because
hints.
And you can kind of piece it together, and it's fine that they haven't mentioned it, because the whole emphasis of the story was Republic City. But I think, and this is just a theory, that there are still 4 separate nations.
There are.
Not 4, of course not Airbending.
But there's like a united, there's a UN essentially.
Yeah, so because you can see that Korra's from the northern tribe.
Southern.
Oh yeah, southern. But there's only waterbenders there, and when Zuko's son, like grandson, comes, like you can tell that each of them are like fireborn, right? Like just by their features and whatnot, they look like they're from the Fire Nation.
You don't have a blending of features and everything that you would expect from nations.
But then you also hear the comments.
But you do see that in
see
Republic City. Yes. But you don't see that
you see that with Bolin and Mako, definitely.
Even though you kind of hear it from them, it's like firebenders and or earthbenders and waterbenders. You gotta destroy the death charges. It's kind of like that one comment that kind of makes it united, even though you don't really see them.
Here's a little question I have. What is the point of having a united army?
I think it was to more or less. I'm not too sure. That's the reason.
I think that was just a plot device. In all honesty, it's something that I found highly illogical. That wait a minute. He's a leader of a united army. They have waterbenders and earthbenders on these ships as well as part of the standing forces.
He's also royalty.
No, it's not just that he's royalty. If they had said the Fire Nation fleet is coming because we're asking for their help, that would be one thing. But they're talking about, essentially, the United Nations' own security forces. What is the point of that when the world has re-established this level of peace?
Hence why I said you don't really know the state of the world. Yeah. Is there still 4 separate nations? Is there still a Fire Lord? If there is still, why is the Crown Prince?
Are there still issues between the Earth Nation, Water Tribes, and the Fire Nation? Are there still these skirmishes happening in various bordering areas?
I think we're going to see that in season 2.
Yeah.
I hope so, but we didn't get to see it this season, which is kind of what we wanted.
It's not even if you wanted it, I think it'll be a bad idea to do that. Mostly because, like I said, the emphasis, and I do like take my hats off to the creators for like not doing that, because they know it's like that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is dealing with this mixed situation in the capital of the thing.
I remember reading about character designs, and like it's not just Bolin and Mako that are mixed characters. There's a couple others, but you have to look at their eye color to see what kind of mix they're.
I think Asami's.
Asami's. Her mother was a Earthbender. Her father is from the Fire Nation. Yeah. That's why she has dark hair but green eyes like her mom. Yeah. That was the concept artist's commentary, and then. What else is there?
It's kind of hard to say.
It's a couple of the benders that they're fighting against during the tournaments. Their eye color is different than what they're actually.
A shout out. Skin colors.
A shout out to the details. In large part because you had a smaller runtime for the series. They've only been syndicated for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And they really wanted to get this storyline out of the way and everything. Their attention to detail with this, I think, personally, was a lot better than what you saw in The Last Airbender, because they had more time to kind of delve into things. They didn't need to drop these hints and these sort of subtle details to bring various things out. And
but they did have a lot of subtle details in Airbender as well.
They did, but I found that they did them better here because you got a more immediate payoff for noticing them.
They also had a lot of subtle mistakes, because if you actually notice in some of the early episodes, like, eye color changes almost on a dime. In one episode, when Mako is first introduced, there's actually a scene when his eyes are green.
Yeah.
They do that a lot, and there's even scenes where, like, Lin has 6 fingers and stuff like that. That's why I kind of find it funny when you say they're good at the details. I'm like, they're only good with the story details. But I mean, little details.
They're not the animators.
Not the animators. I mean the concept artists.
But that is the point that I'm making.
And pull the animators from
yeah,
like,
they're not the animators.
But that is the point that I'm making.
Yeah.
But that is the point that I'm making is this: because you have less time to tell this story, you have to be a lot more careful with your details and a lot more precise with the details that you reveal and everything. Simply hearing female voices on the chi benders as they're being taken out later pays off, because you hit that point where, okay, it makes sense that Korra can hide out with them, because prior to that, you didn't see female members of any military force.
Yeah.
Except for the
Fire
Kyoshi.
Nation.
Kyoshi warriors were the only one, but even that was a single-gender force.
I'm hoping we see them again.
The chi fighters that you see working for Amon, the chi blockers, were the only examples thus far of a mixing, and that works towards the equalist initiative. It isn't just benders and non-benders, it is all people on an even footing, which you didn't have in the 4 nations, even internally.
Actually, Fire Nation internally had...
You did not?
Yeah, you did.
You did not have female members of their military.
They
did. They did.
They
Actually,
did, totally.
You see,
You very rarely saw anyone.
They
did. Internally,
if
they
you see,
did.
at the Boiling Rock, there are female guards and male guards.
How many line troopers do you see as female?
I'd have to see the Black Day of Black Sun again.
There are a lot of episodes where you see female. They don't.
It's only in the third season.
I'm gonna have to go back and see it.
There's a whole
really
discussion with Iroh when he was talking about the one female guard. It's like, hey, listen, today don't come in. Don't come into work today.
You do see them fighting as well.
I have to see the Day of Black Sun again to tell you exactly how many, but I know they're there.
Having them as... but the thing is, even what you just described is a level of inequality. They're consigned to the guard duties. Why aren't they serving on the front lines?
There are some in the front. There are some on the front line.
I have to watch that series.
I have not seen them.
Yeah, like I've seen them. Like you can notice.
You're gonna have to show it to me. You're gonna have to show it to me.
You're gonna have to actually like look at them very, very carefully.
It's something you can miss so easily.
Yeah, it's like the episode when Zuko. I think it was the swamp when Zuko returns as the Blue Spirit. It's like some very subtle things, like you see his mask on a cart, just like passing by, and it's literally like a 2-second scene.
Oh man.
Yeah, and it's like little subtle things like that. You have to really.
You reminded me of something terrible. Why is lightning bending everywhere now? Wasn't it supposed to be like rare or not?
Yeah, well,
no, because these are the thing is because these are fully trained individuals. You had the gradual sort of introduction to these trained
Mako.
Mako and Bolin are both fully trained.
They're professional fighters.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to use lightning in their profession. So
it doesn't matter.
So I say again, who did that? I still want to know.
Who in their spare time says,
no, but again, you have that detail where he gets the drop on Amon. And Amon says, you must be incredibly gifted because no one's ever gotten the drop on me like that. The same way that Azula was incredibly gifted to be able to bend lightning at her age.
It's really interesting that even in this, like you see like all the not mainstream, but like you see more people using like chi blocking and all that stuff, but you still don't see people knowing how to divert lightning. It's like the one skill that you don't see that's not illegal, right? You see the chi blockers coming in and just shocking everyone. No one knows how to divert it, except for that one scene where Korra kind of like does it for like a second in her cage, but that's about it. Like that's the only skill that.
No. Korra avoids it. You see Mako do it. He's still affected by it, but you do see him redirect the lightning from the thing,
But
but
you don't see that. It's like so rare, and I
Sorry.
think it's so interesting.
Just to make a mention of that cage, I actually looked it up and I found out a little bit about the cage she was in, and it turns out in that cage, she wouldn't have had to do anything.
Oh.
It's so isolated, that cage, lightning can't go into it. Just a little
it would
question on the
immediately
detail.
ground. It would immediately ground unless he was actually putting the batons up top and running it down through the walls.
Yeah.
That's really
Just a
weird.
little question on the details. Like I
Negative
said,
things.
like...
Yeah,
And
but you know, honestly, they didn't have enough time,
that's true.
and that's why I forgive them for a lot of those things.
Well, that's
because-
why we forgive them for the 6 fingers and the 4
yeah,
toes.
because we know like they're
Just
just
like Madoka.
it's like everything that they had to do. Like they had so much time to develop Avatar, and you know, like you remember like waiting 6 months just for one episode to come out.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Or the season.
Yeah,
The time between seasons.
You know
Yeah,
what?
it was ridiculous.
I was shocked when they did like the last 6 episodes of season 3 in one day. I was like, what? What is going on?
You know what?
The
Props.
greatest
to-
day of your life,
It
apparently.
was.
Yeah.
You know-
No work and I get to watch it.
Yes, you know what? Like, props to the animators for Korra. I mean, I waited 2 months for the last episode of Madoka, and that's also like, it ends at like episode 13, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, it's the 6 fingers say hello to you. But I was like, you had 2 months to animate 1 episode. Why did you not fix the 6 fingers at the final, like, 5 minutes of the thing? Oh!
Yeah, I know. It's just like one of those things, but the quality is so
short
up there that you can forgive
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Actually, what like again with this timing, like a lot gets lost because of the timing, and this doesn't take away from the series. It's just something I noticed that like when they use 3D animation
Or
in Avatar: The Last
cell
Air-
shading.
yeah,
cell
in
shading.
Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's a lot more subtle, except for some scenes where the airships come.
Yeah.
But like you know the scene with the boomerang, it is actually done in 3D, and you don't notice it at all. And what's really great is also the scene on the airship where. The Fire Lord is in 2D, but the airship is in 3D, and it's like they animate it
It's
frame by frame.
seamlessly.
It takes that's why it took so long. But in this one, you just see a lot of 3D. It's not that mixed as well, and again, it's because of not that much time.
Right,
But it's
yeah.
still
The
very
same-
seamless. You don't really notice it unless you
I
try.
noticed it. I know. I don't even try. I noticed it right off. Maybe it's because like I spent a lot of time looking at like 3D. And,
Yeah, it
like,
might be because I didn't
I
care
picked
as
it up
much.
right away. Like I picked it up right away. I'm like, oh.
Like I
no.
saw the 3D,
Yeah.
but I'm like, whatever.
The polish definitely isn't as good with this, but that I think is in large part because this is something that the fans and the network were both pushing for. They had serious time constraints on
Yeah,
their
and that
hands.
sucks for them.
Uh,
but like
But they still delivered.
they delivered really well.
They
Not
delivered
just
a
they
fantastic,
delivered,
tight
they delivered-
story.
Yeah.
Now, in all honesty, between the 2 series, I would still have to give it to The Last Airbender.
Same here.
But it is comparing apples to oranges because the point of the 2 series are 2 completely
Yeah.
different things.
I would just
There's
like to
a
say,
lot more setup that you have to do with The Last Airbender.
I would just like to say though, I do like Korra more than Aang, just because I don't know
Oh well,
about.
character-wise,
As an avatar, she's very interesting.
as an avatar, as a
She's
character-wise,
a little
yeah.
bit more interesting than Aang.
I like
Well,
it.
she's more interesting than any of the other ones that we've seen. She's far more interesting than Roku, and the little
Yeah.
snippets that you get from Kyoshi and Korra. She's a very interesting, because she comes off as a very real teenager.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say you like the last, like Korra better than the last.
No,
Airbender.
no, I
And
meant
was
like the character.
But yeah, the character,
like, there's
she's
certain-
definitely a lot more interesting. I love her as an avatar.
Like,
She's like
I-
one of after
Yeah.
Kyoshi. Sorry, after Kyoshi, she's one of my favorite avatars as well.
I still really
Story
like
with
the
the young
series,
cat.
and I
Yeah.
still love the series. I think it's. I don't really see too much of like I see the quality difference, but in terms of like avatarness,
yeah.
I still kind of relate them as the same. I still like them both equally, but I definitely like Korra as a character more than Aang.
I'd like to say that animation-wise, I'm thinking that because I've watched many Japanese anime recently, and they all have like part of their animations subsidized to Korea, right? And Avatar is animated in Korea.
Yes.
So
you can tell.
if anything, I think they've gotten used to the idea that you release your episode first to get the story across, and then you release the Blu-ray without all the mistakes. So, because that's what's happened with a lot of anime recently. I mean, even if you go back to like the Escaflowne movie, it was also animated in Korea, and I recently picked up the Blu-ray for that as well as Samurai Champloo, and I noticed that they've remastered a lot of the like CGI and the cel shading bits, right? So that it's more seamless. They've added more, if anything, so that like even when you're in like a palace type of thing, right? The background, the little things running around in the streets, that's kind of blurry far from the distance. That's all CGI. and you
That's
have to
really good.
just to blend it in better.
If Korra does that, like
Yeah.
if they come out with a Blu-ray that's better on CJ, I will love that.
Because that's the
and then
point of the
maybe I'll
Blu-ray.
like Korra a lot better. Than
Yeah, because
I'll get it
I mean, it's not saying
regardless.
I don't like it now.
I'm saying that's what
I'll
the
get
technique
it
they're using now.
regardless.
So if
Yeah.
anything,
No,
that's
yeah,
probably why.
out of the
I'll
other
get it anyways.
out of the other programs that are on right now for young children, you mentioned this before, Sam.
Yeah.
It is hands down the best thing
like-
on TV.
And hence why people, like, that's kind of the confusion. It's like, it's the best thing. Technically, it is the best thing on TV.
Right
I'm
now.
just gonna say right now.
It is,
it's not the best show
Of
in
all
the
time.
universe,
Yeah.
but
Of
it's
all
easily the
time.
best thing on TV.
Yeah.
It's still
And
good.
that's what I'm gonna say, and that's where the confusion comes in. It's
I guess
understandable.
I think another issue with that is also at least our generation, we saw The Last Airbender, we really enjoyed it, we enjoyed the world that it was in, but it was still something that was sort of young for our generation. The way that it presented everything, all of the characters, they seemed a little too young. You liked hearing about them, but you didn't connect with them as you would at characters your own age. Whereas this series, you're able to very easily connect with characters
I think that's,
if they develop them to the same degree.
The thing with
That's-
that is,
that's what I would have
I think that's why a lot of people didn't originally, because now what's happening is that since Korra came out, now people are getting into The Last Airbender.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with that. I actually love that because that means they're getting more fan base.
Exactly.
But I think like the main theory I have with this is because two reasons. One is that it's an American anime which has a bad name to it already.
Transformers?
And also,
That's for bad movies, but...
but also
No, I mean the anime.
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
also
was-
that
it's
people
American
thought
anime.
it was for children. And I can easily see that, but at the same
for
time,
everyone.
now people are going back to it. They realize there's a lot of adult issues dealt with it in there. They're like,
Yeah.
you know, and so it's good that
There's
they're
a
getting.
lot of death happening.
I
in
like
the
the
last
romance.
series.
Season one alone,
I like the
has,
romance
like-
in Avatar more
It has an entire battle scene.
than Korra.
where people not only just get like completely mutilated and die, or are left to die at sea and freeze to death.
My
Like in
goodness.
season 1, you know.
It deals with assassination
God, it's
attempts and murder. Yeah.
Murder-
But
yeah.
anyways, I was also going to say, this also kind of leads to the fact that this is one of those shows, and this is why it is such a good show, and I mean Avatar as a whole, both
Yeah.
series. Whenever a show not only can be for kids, but does something for adults, and this is what Pixar and DreamWorks does really well with a lot of their movies, Kung Fu Panda, Toy
Yeah.
Story. But whenever it actually grows with its audience, like the one thing I really liked about the reboot series was the fact that it grew with its audience. The first 2 seasons were kind of kiddie and everything,
Yeah.
but all of a sudden, just right in the middle of season,
Bob's gone.
Bob's gone. It gets super serious and super dark,
And
and
Dre
then all of a
gets so
sudden,
hot.
Enzo, yeah, she gets hot. Enzo gets friggin'
Beefcake.
beef. He is a muscle-bound,
Call me
and he is so
Matrix.
angry, and it just grew up
Where'd
right
your
with
eye
its
go?
audience.
And I'm
What
glad
eye?
that Korra, like,
And that's what Korra
yeah.
did.
And I'm glad that Korra did that good. They also did it good that they made it like different.
Yeah.
Like it's not a reach like.
That's also
Oh,
what happened in
the Avatar
Reboot. It
Last
became
Airbender,
different
yeah.
after a while, and any series that does that is automatically in my good graces. Just
Yeah.
immediately.
Not my cabbage corn.
No, oh yeah, I love those little subtle like.
The
It
throwback.
does subtles really
Uh,
well.
General Iroh getting a scar on his arm on the same
Same
side
side
that his
as-
grandfather.
I know. I almost thought it was gonna be on his face too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, it's the same side.
Though I will say this. What
Boogie.
did anyone else?
Like Zuko.
No. Did you notice how much like Iroh's son he looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks a lot like Iroh's son.
I even
That
think
little
he-
picture that you see from the stories of Ba Sing Se, he looks almost exactly like him.
I would also
Yeah.
like to say, if I were to imagine Iroh as that age, I would picture him. Like, not only is he named after General Iroh, I think he acts like General. If he turns
Yeah.
into an old man, he's turning into Iroh.
Yeah, there's a lot of
What about
pictures going
Boomy?
around the internet.
Boomy acts like
Acts
Boomy.
just like Boomy. I love that.
He is easily turning into. Even looks like Boomy.
I love that.
He's got the crazy hair.
But
Which
you know,
is-
there's a lot of funny like pictures going around the internet where like General Iroh's like, I don't want tea, and everyone's like, no, blasphemy.
Or because he also looks like Zuko, it's like, we will reclaim Republic City. Or no, we're not going to reclaim. We're going to
I
reclaim
must
my
find
honor.
the Avatar to regain
My honor. Something like that.
I lost the fleet. I must reclaim Public City to reclaim my honor.
Hi, Iroh here.
He's
Zuko's
so
here.
Yeah,
Insert Zuko's voice. Instant fandom.
pretty much. But
Dante
that's
Basco, though, like, I love him
I
as
hope-
a
yeah.
as a voice actor.
He
like,
only
he
does
was
the one
in-
voice.
He's in American Dragon, and this is something that is a really like underrated show.
Oh.
But because like even if you
Jake Long.
Jake Long, American
Okay.
Dragon Jake Long, if you go on his website, it's not even on his website. I'm like, why? It was so good. Like I think even he underestimates how good
Yeah.
American Dragon was.
Well,
I
so was
actually-
Dave the Barbarian, but
I
you know
actually hope
what? It
that-
happens.
I love Dave the Barbarian.
Hey,
I hope that he gets a bigger role in the next season because, like,
Yeah.
introducing
I
both
would
Lumi and Iroh is great. Like,
Yeah.
They still-
we need more cast.
they still have to introduce Kaya, and we don't even know if Kaya's married. Does she have kids? What's
Yeah,
going
I
on
think
there?
all that stuff is gonna happen in season 2.
Hopefully we'll
Hopefully.
see
And
a
if
little
not,
bit more.
I'm
If-
sure we'll do something great.
I would be happy seeing what happened to Team Avatar from the first season, and like,
think
rather
it's gonna
than
be a
just
time
having the
skip.
flashbacks. We might have a time skip the same way they did for Young Justice. But they've left the options way open with what happened to Amon and his brother.
It's almost
Or-
going to be a new It's almost
Yeah.
going to be a new series.
I like that they ended it. Like I
like
can
how he
actually
cried.
like, I could be in peace until the
I
next
would just
season.
like to
Seeing a
Yeah.
fully realized Avatar navigate the world should be interesting
Yeah.
because we've never seen that before,
Yeah.
not effectively.
I'd also like to say the ending with Amon, and, or should I say,
Yeah, Amon and
how do you pronounce his actual name?
Tarlock
Tarlock.
and
No, Tarlock's the brother.
Oh, I don't remember.
It's like Akatok or something,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
He's
Um,
I love
I'm
the fact he cried.
That was
Like,
beautiful.
It was
That
so
was
well done.
possibly one of the. That was an even better ending to Avatar.
It
I don't
was.
care.
I think so.
Well,
No, I
that's
can agree with you
proof.
with that.
That's proof that if you have a great villain, the rest you can accept a slide on.
Yeah,
I also
because,
like-
especially because you were mentioning this before, but since they didn't know about it, we're gonna like mention how like
Yeah.
he cried. He had a tear, meaning that
Yeah.
he knew exactly what Tarlock was gonna do.
Which was
Well,
beautiful.
well, no,
Yeah.
exactly
still
what
loved his
Tarlock
brother.
says.
He did. Yeah.
He did, but the thing is, the way that Tarlock tells him, just like it was in the old days, but you saw in the previous episode how he mentioned to Korra the old days were finished.
Yeah.
And at that point he realizes exactly what his brother's going to do.
Yeah.
And he just goes, you know what, you're right. Things can't go back. I can't go back and be Amon again. We can't make another play for power.
Yeah.
They know that our powers are here. And we can't go back to the way that things were. We'll be hunted, and they know what to look for. And so this is the only option. And he realizes that as soon as he says that what was impossible will come.
Yeah.
Well,
I also like how the bad guy was a waterbender.
That's
not a
exactly what I was
firebender.
gonna say. It's like this idea
that was
because
nice.
especially since
The
like
healers.
And a bloodbender too.
you get to this idea where like not each element, because they try to say this in Last Airbender as well, like not each element is evil, and they kind of showed that with
fire is life.
with Earth as well.
Yeah.
That every time that you look at waterbending, you see it as this like holy element, and they're really bringing it down, and I love that they're doing that. It's kind of like
Exactly.
making it realistic in a
Well,
way.
I
Yeah.
think that's what they needed to do because, I mean, the only thing they haven't done is show like an evil airbender. I think that's basically the last thing they
I think-
Well,
I
I
think
think they can. And
Well,
Well, they can't because there's only 4 of them out
Yeah.
there. But
Evil
unless Milo
earthbending
becomes evil
animal.
when he's
But no,
older.
I agree with you. Breaking
Evil
down that sort of thing where you had where the firebenders were the attackers, the earthbenders were your shield wall, the airbenders were sort of the negotiators, and the waterbenders were the healers. Breaking that apart with the series is definitely a great thing. Yeah, the series is fantastic.
Was
in
it
and of
breaking down
itself.
a water barrier?
It was breaking down many barriers, both ice, rock, metal, all of it.
No, platinum. Platinum, that.
And I've got to say, I will say this right now. Lin Beifong is an amazing character. You only loved her once she lost her bending. Then you felt sympathetic. I loved her before
I
that.
loved her before.
I
that.
also loved her before that.
I loved her the moment that she just hung up the pooping kid. That's a woman that knows how to handle a child.
She already lost her man. No, she didn't. That doesn't make sense.
No,
I would just like to say though, I
loved her
kind
way
of want to
before
see
that.
the dynamic of her raising a kid.
I want to
Yeah.
see her
That would-
younger.
I want Toph raising a
I want
kid,
to know what she
definitely.
looked like.
Toph raising a kid be interesting, but
Yeah.
I think either of them raising a kid.
Maybe that's what Toph did to her. Toph
'Cause I know
had the
she's-
thing designed just to carry her around. It's like, ew,
See-
poopy baby.
I was making the option that she's 50. I mean, like, essentially her prime is past, essentially.
Yeah.
But I would still like to see her, like, adopting a kid or something. Like, just to see that
I
dynamic
would-
of her raising
I
a
would
kid.
like her actually. I would actually like to see her training the new recruits.
Yeah, but we don't
coming
know
back
if
to
she
the police
doesn't
force.
have.
Well,
or a kid already.
Well, she has no husband.
Yeah, we don't know that. She doesn't know. She might have had fling after Tenzin. We don't know what happened at all.
That's
It's
true.
like it's a new time, right?
Well, like I said, there's only a 10-year period when she broke up with Tenzin, and
yeah,
because
but that's a long time.
it is a long.
It's a long and very short time.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then she also felt a lot of spite after that time. I'm gonna say
Exactly.
that right.
So
Yeah,
you
spite.
never know what you're gonna do in spite.
I just like to,
don't
that's
think
kind of
so.
why I hope that's the case because
I
like I said, I really want to see that dynamic
I
with
think
her.
she gave up. I think she gave it her all to just train the new recruits and like she made because
That's-
remember she said she has nothing except the city.
Yeah.
That's
like
what they were implying, definitely.
Yeah.
That's why I said it would be a really cool dynamic and a great like B story arc.
Yeah. She looks so much like Toph.
Well,
She actually
Except
looks a
with
lot like
curly hair.
her Toph's mother, Poppy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you actually compare them, it's like
more
other than the hair.
details, more details.
I just where did she get the scar again? Did they explain it?
They don't
They
really
never explain it.
which
Oh,
is-
okay.
Yeah.
to explain it.
They
No,
don't need to
they
explain
shouldn't.
it. They don't have to explain it. It's
They-
like you
they
know
should.
it's basically her character that she
She wears her scars openly.
yeah, she put all her like effort into this military. Obviously she's gonna have scars.
I still want to know.
It might be an interesting story, but it's like it's not necessary to
I don't know if it'll just be like a I just mean to see the battle that gave her the scars would be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Not that the scars have to be given in some sort of epic moment. They could just be like during a fight.
Yeah.
Or after
I don't
the
think
fight
it's a-
ended,
it's
it's
a
like a dish broke or something and she got cut.
Like I'm not
That's
expecting
after-
like what happened to Zuko, how he got his scar. I'm just like expecting someone
Daddy
cut her
issues.
as she was fighting. Yeah.
In my spare time,
Like just like all of a
punches
sudden a
me
sucker
in
punch to the
face.
face or something
Yeah.
with like claws.
In my spare time, my mom
Wolverine.
punched me in the face.
No,
With platinum.
X-23. There's only 2.
X-23 is the one with the two
Oh.
blades.
I thought there was 3 stars.
Let me figure it
No,
out.
no,
only
it's just
Yeah.
two.
Okay.
Any-
Anyways, that's gonna be the end of our discussion, I think.
Yeah.
It's also
Rambled on.
awesome.
Check out A Legend of Korra. It may
Let
not
us
be
know
as-
what you think. We definitely want to hear your thoughts on
Give
it.
We
us
want to
some
hear
feedback.
you
Yeah.
and follow us.
We do like hearing your opinion. If only-
Subscribe.
Exactly. Do it.
We have a Facebook page.
Yeah, but I
It
think
makes
the
Goma happy.
general census is we all love Korra.
We do.
I like Aang.
I like
Anyways,
Korra.
Until next time, we'll see you.
Bye bye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Fire.